Hello, I'm Melody Pash, Dream Diva, and we're here to explore the messages in your dreams and how they affect your everyday life. Thank you for joining us for this episode.
Melody, I had this dream that a child I know is sitting in a dentist chair. The room is totally empty, but the walls are yellow. The dentist takes a straight edge razor and cuts out the child's teeth and pulls them out. Scared me to death.
That's a really scary dream, and that would really frighten anybody. I hate that kind of dream. But with me today, I have Marilyn Gray, my friend, who is very adept at inner healing modalities and is also a life coach, and we're going to talk about what to do with this dream. That's a tough one. Marilyn, what do you think about the dentist and what he might represent, and how would you deal with that? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. My first response to it was that the dentist represented an authority figure. I don't know about you, but I'm really nervous about going to the dentist. So,
right?
So like anxiety and.
Yeah, I think we all have trauma where it comes to things like that. Maybe just doctors in general, but
Right.
yeah, and they sort of have, we laugh and say the doctors have sort of a God complex, but wonder if we even expect, after having a dream like that, if you would even at some point feel like maybe that would be God in my life who's taking out my bite or taking out my power or how I respond or how I react, how I fight my battles would be really difficult, especially I know that we all sometimes have a bad connotation when it comes to who God is and just how Creator works in our lives, all of that. Yeah,
well, I think a lot of it has to do with also just the authority figures in our lives, either male or female, and the wanting to please, the wanting to submit, and all of that.
Yeah.
So having that dream, that would tell me that it was a scary, anxious time.
Yeah. There was anxiety there. Yeah, connected to the situation. I wonder too if removing the bite is also, it would be really hard to process with that authority after you've lost your bite.
Right.
Just being able to process, being able to grind food up and be able to actually digest it, you would really have a hard time processing. And I think that's something that comes up too.
Yeah, and I think the fear of not being able to say anything, the fear of not addressing anything.
Been there.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to open your mouth and talk if there's pain.
Right. Ooh, that trauma will shut you down.
Yeah, will shut you down just totally.
Ooh, it's a paralysis, isn't it?
Yeah. Where you just don't say what you need to say, or you don't do what you need to do because you don't have the words to speak.
Well, and you're at someone else's mercy.
Right.
Yeah, which is the scary part.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some questions from viewers, and we're going to get someone to share those for us.
Here's a question. If I forgive someone, does it mean I have to see them again?
It's going to be important, don't you think, Marilyn, to set some healthy boundaries?
Yes.
Sometimes, even when you forgive, you're going to have to put up a bit of a boundary. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's not mandatory that you have to be with that person again.
Yeah.
Boundaries are good. If that person continues to hurt you, of course you want a healthy boundary.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You don't want to So forgiving somebody doesn't mean you have to be back in relationship with them.
Okay. Yeah.
What about when I am offended on behalf of someone else?
If you're offended on behalf of someone else, that's a tough one because especially if you're a caretaker of that person, it makes me want to, go to the mattress or whatever, really battle. But what do you think, Marilyn?
That's a tough one. I think, again, I have to go back to Creator and say, what is in my heart towards this situation?
Good.
If it didn't happen to you, but that you're feeling it on behalf of someone else,
How do I deal with
how do
this?
you deal with it?
Yeah.
I think it, again, is going to Creator and say, I'm feeling really bad about this. I've taken on some maybe false responsibility.
Right.
So what is it what is it something that I need healing from?
That's good. And probably in your forgiveness, the other person would receive some as well.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Does this mean this person is off the hook?
Well, forgiveness is about you. It's not about the other person. So the reason why you ask for forgiveness is to set you free. You can't do anything about the other person.
Right. You can only take responsibility for yourself.
Right. Yeah, because the healing starts here.
Right.
Right. So.
Good questions.
Melody and Marilyn, what does the color yellow in the dream mean?
The color yellow in the dream to me is extreme caution and fear.
Yeah.
What are some of the signs I still struggle with unforgiveness?
Don't you think, Marilyn, that's going to be some triggers coming up?
I think triggers coming up with authority figures or with dentists. In fact, the dream reminded me of my own stuff around a dentist.
Right.
Right. And as I looked at that dream, it's like, oh gosh, I think I have some fear still going to the dentist.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the dentist would be a trigger. An authority figure where you feel powerless might be another trigger.
Yeah, that's good.
Melody, what about panic attacks?
I think there could definitely be a connection based upon just what you were talking about. I mean, I was at the dentist not long ago and had a dentist that didn't do a nice job on some things and really caused me more pain than I should have, and more money, and just all kinds of challenges. And I was not only devastated, but really it affected me in a way I didn't realize.
Body, soul, and spirit,
Yeah.
right? Just the whole thing.
Yeah. It really
Yeah,
did.
and I look at that dream, it's like cutting out the teeth. It's like, now I don't have a voice. Now, what do I say? It's like, it would cause you to just pull in and be anxious about anything where you don't have any control.
Yeah. Because I definitely, I felt this, anxiety coming on. Like how the dentist will always take your blood pressure. My blood pressure is always a little high.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Because of the anxiety, right?
Yes,
so,
right.
yeah, I
Right.
definitely relate to that. But
Right.
I think they're connected. Yeah, absolutely. So, Marilyn, with a dream like that, I would assume some forgiveness needs to come into play. What would that look like for you? How would you go about directing someone to do something with that dream? Because obviously the dreams that we have are for a purpose. So how would you deal with that situation?
Well, I think the dream also represents just the powerlessness
Yeah.
of the situation. And I know that forgiveness is a process. Forgiveness doesn't always say when you forgive that you feel better about it, that it
Right.
really is a process, right?
Yeah.
It's like if people go, yeah, I'll forgive, and then they still have the hurt and the anxiety and
right.
the pain.
Right.
And
so what do you do with that?
So you just need to continue to ask Creator, is there anything else in that I'm believing about this dream? Is there anything else that I need to forgive?
Okay.
What are the lies maybe that I might be be thinking about what happened.
Okay, and those lies then would cause triggers,
Right,
right,
right.
that would emotionally have us react, those knee-jerk reactions. So, okay, so as Creator brings things up, and do you think I think people are worried sometimes that when they talk to Creator, that they don't really hear anything. But do you think when you ask, because I know when I ask, something will bubble up in me, right? How does that work? And then what, you just deal with each of those pieces that come up, or?
Yeah, I think it's just I think again it's a process. I think none of us have arrived in forgiveness, so we just keep trying.
Okay.
We keep saying, I choose to forgive. My will is to forgive, right? And sometimes it's going to come from the heart, and sometimes it's going to be just the choice.
Oh,
right.
Talk about that.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
really important,
Right.
and I know I've dealt with that.
Right. And the problem with not forgiving is that we will start to see other people in that authority role and have the same anxiety and emotions come up,
Right.
because there's this root.
Like an expectation.
Right, an expectation or something. There's a root to this place where we need to forgive in order. We can forgive all day long, but let's get to the root. Let's get to the hurt behind that.
That's really good. That's
Yeah.
really good. So sometimes, so you're saying that sometimes forgiveness is just the action. I mean, just taking action to make the choice.
Right, right.
Just to make the choice.
Because if you don't forgive, it impacts your whole life. It impacts your whole body. It impacts everything about you, because it's in your heart and it causes a bitterness in your heart. And so forgiveness is more just about choosing to let Creator come and heal your heart around the incident, around the situation.
Well, and that's a really good point, because, I can hear people even now saying, I've tried to forgive.
Right.
I can't forgive.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But really, you have the power.
Yes. Yeah. And we just have to ask for it. And come and, a lot of people say, I forgive, but they stop there. And then they don't say, Creator, will you come into my heart and heal my heart from the situation?
So the healing is, well, that's the most important part,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that too is a process.
Right. Yeah.
When you work with people in areas of forgiveness, how long might you have sessions with them and really work with them to walk them through? I'm sure it's different with everybody.
Right.
But is that something that happens quickly, or when you say a process, what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's a process, meaning that sometimes when we choose to forgive and we ask the healing, there's maybe another lie that's involved. There's another situation that's involved with authority figures. So what we do is we try to get to the root. What is the root to that unforgiveness?
And so you're saying it can be a combination of things as well.
Right. So it could be this dentist in this dream,
Okay.
but that could also represent a father, represent some other authority figure. And so, if we're not feeling freedom, then I think we need to continue to ask, is there any more that we need to look at?
And do you think that in daily life, just that things come up that we can see would be connected to, say, the issues in the dream?
Right.
With authority figures, whether that's mother, father, Creator, whatever.
Right.
Just getting that little inkling, like being reminded of the dream. To me, that says Creator is giving me what I call a 411, like an information call, right? Saying, yeah, let's talk about this thing. This thing is also involved, or maybe tied to it in some area.
Right.
Let's talk about that and find out where that happened and what took place in the action of the wounding. So when we can pinpoint the trauma, the wounding, the issue, the root that you're talking about, then what do you do with that root once you figure that out?
Well, again, it goes back to forgiveness. It
Okay.
goes back to either generational forgiveness or forgiveness of our father or forgiveness of the authority figure,
Okay.
and release that person from any expectations of
Okay.
what you had in that experience.
Okay. So would the root might be what? I'm angry about it, or I felt powerless by it. What is a root? What is a root? What does that look like
Well,
exactly?
the root could be many things. It could be the anxiety. It could be
Oh.
out of control, so you feel abandoned and you feel controlled.
Okay.
All right. It could be fear. Could be just the root.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, an early incident like this can also cause the fear to just penetrate our whole entire life.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and can go past that, I guess, at times as well too, depending on, if you believe in epigenetics, it's like
Right.
things do get passed on,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
They really do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And it also, unforgiveness also is like bitterness of the heart, so it causes the heart to be sick, right? And bitterness has a lot to do with our own physical
I was fixing
wellness.
to say, and
Yeah.
doesn't that also, wouldn't that also affect the physical body?
Yeah.
I know it has mine.
Yeah.
I know that when I'm hurting or when I have issues where I don't feel good, I go into depression sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes those are all really based upon, something that, like you're talking about, an issue that I just haven't dealt with yet.
Right.
So,
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So those issues are going to have to be dealt with. We figured that one out. And, you might want to contact Marilyn to have an opportunity to get to know her better and get some counsel in how to deal with your unforgiveness. Hello, I'm Melody Pash, and I just want to share with you my Now Interpret This dream journal, which has a great template for putting all of your details down for your dreams so that you don't forget them and you can process through them. Look me up on Amazon.com.